In terms of covering sports on television and radio, is there a massive difference in your preparation process?
There's not a difference in the preparation. There's certainly a difference in the delivery. Obviously, time's a lot tighter in television. You have a little bit more flexibility to talk. Like right now, even just in this, how long-winded have I been? And I know this is technically TV in a sense that we're doing this on video, but obviously, it's more of just a conversational type thing. But if this were a television show, you'd have a producer and or a director screaming in my ear right now, or probably more so in your ear, to shut your guest up because you got to get to commercial and there's no moving the commercials, and you've got to get to your sponsors and you got to get that in. And again, that's not to say that there's not sponsors and commercials in radio. I just think you have a little bit more flexibility. And as it relates to live play-by-play, though, there's a major difference in the two mediums in that, and I think you would acknowledge this as a fan, as a viewer or listener. When you're watching a game on television, you don't want to hear your broadcasters as much because you don't need them to describe every single detail of the play because you're watching it. So you want to be entertained. You still want some play-by-play. You still want some analysis. You still want some storytelling. You still want to see the highlights. You still want the energy and the fun that hopefully the broadcasters can provide, the fun, the entertainment, and the information. But at some point, you also just want them to shut up a little bit so you can watch and not just be drowned out by their voices all the time because you're seeing it. I don't need you to tell me everything. I see it myself. In radio, I'm not seeing anything. So you have to describe every detail, and you're trying to paint the picture. So whether it's describing the expressions on players' faces or the fans and the colors of the uniform and which direction the game is moving and just any little minute detail that you can give. And the color analyst needs to talk less because he needs to be, or she needs to be, quick with their points because you got to get it back to the play-by-play guy, or the analyst has to incorporate a little bit of play-by-play into their analysis in order to make sure that the audience still knows where the ball is, where the puck is, what's happening, where they are in the field, on the court, whatever. Because if I'm not telling you, then you have no idea. You're driving around going, who's got the ball right now? Who's on offense? Who's on defense? Who's handling? Who just scored? What's the score? That's another thing. What's the score? You can't say the time and the score enough. If you tune in to the second quarter of a broadcast on the radio, you should know what the score is within, I'd say, 30 seconds or less, but definitely 60 seconds or less. Because otherwise you're going, who's winning? That's why you tuned in. You want to know who's winning. You want to know what's happening in the game. Where are we? Is it first quarter, second quarter? How much is left in the first half? Are we in the second half? You need to know those things. So time and score, whereas in TV, it's on the screen. I don't need to say it. It's right there for you. So there's a lot of differences in the delivery, but preparation-wise, no, you still have to know, you know your stats, know your trends, know who's hurt, who's not hurt, know stories and background, and when we say color, the colorful stories that come with having at least one, if not 7 tidbits about each guy in case there's any time to give a little bit more background to a player or to a situation, to a story that's been unfolding and whatnot. You got to be prepared. I'll tell you, and you've probably heard this before. We can argue whether it's 95%, 90%, 80%. Let's just say 90. You probably end up not using 90% of the information or the research that you've put into a broadcast, and you might only get to about 10% of it. But you have to have the other 90 for the what if. What if a player gets injured and there's 10 minutes you got to fill? What if there's something that happens within the game? What if your broadcast partner falls ill and has to leave the broadcast? What if? You've got to be prepared for all those and know that you have as much information and as much knowledge to bring to every single broadcast. So you have to prepare for everything, again, no matter what you're doing, TV, radio, or otherwise.
I thought Bob Cole, Eric, was the master of sharing just the best information in terms of calling a game, because he didn't give you too much information, but he didn't give you too little. And every time there was a special play, let's say, there was always kind of a pause that he would take, and he would just let you watch it. So that's why I'm such a big fan of Bob Cole.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We often will call it letting it breathe. Let it breathe a little bit. Sometimes the best moment is simply allowing the fans, the crowd, to take the moment and to have that energy. And that carries through on radio. I think it carries through even more so on television, because you not only hear it, but then you can see it. They show you the images, flash to this fan, flash there, boom, 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 all the different camera angles, facial expressions from players, from coaches, from anybody in the stands. So those moments again are where the pictures, the video, can carry the moment. I think in radio you have to describe it a little more, again, to paint the picture for people. But at the same time, big moments, you still do want to kind of let the crowd and let those microphones pick up the roar of the crowd and whatnot, and allow people to use that to paint that picture for themselves as well, instead of just relying on you to say every single thing. And honestly, I don't know if you can be taught that. You just sort of have to feel it in the moment. And that might sound kind of cheeseball, but I think it's true. That just the more you do it, even within a talk show and within a conversation. Bob McCown, to me, was and arguably still is the best in terms of, and it's honestly, it comes down to preference and personal taste, I suppose. Like, I know my wife, I don't know if Bob will watch this or this ever gets back to Bob, but my wife used to hate listening, not to Bob, but just those moments within his show where he literally would take 3 to 5 second pauses, like the pregnant pause. And she would say, man, I thought I lost the signal or something. I thought I had to change channels. And then all of a sudden he started talking it. And I love it, because I think it's also, it's time for your brain to reset sometimes. Like, as much as we're trained or we've been schooled, or we like to think that we have to talk all the time, there is something to be said for, maybe sometimes you need to take that moment to gather your thoughts, or maybe you're doing it intentionally to really hammer home a point that you just made before you begin your next sentence or begin your next point. Or maybe it's again just the delivery of slowing your cadence down, to really hammer something home, or to just create the drama of the moment, again, whether it's in a play-by-play moment or even just in a conversation, in an interview. And I think Bob was one of the best at that. So like, even within this conversation, we're currently talking about play-by-play and preparation for broadcast, but there's a major difference between preparing for a broadcast and a live play-by-play versus preparing for a live radio show or even a recorded show interview, because the skills that you bring to that and the style that you bring to that is different. There's a major difference between trying to have a conversational, laid-back interview versus certainly a hard-hitting news interview versus live play-by-play. Because the other thing too is, especially when you're live in any format, and this to me is it might be, we're recording it, but we're doing it sort of live to tape. Unless one of us really screws up, this is going to air the way it airs when we're having the conversation. I think that the reason I bring up the difference in live is that this is all ad lib. There's no scripts here. It's all improv. It's all what's coming off the top of my head, off the top of your head. And that's certainly the case in live play-by-play, because you obviously can't predict what's going to happen within a game. So even as much as you prepare your stories and you prepare your stats and you prepare for the broadcast, once that ball goes up, that puck's dropped, or whatever sport we're talking about, you have no idea what's coming, and you're just describing the play. And you might not even look down at your stats and stories at all, because your job is to watch and to talk about it and to deliver. And you just have to be ready to think on your toes. And as I say, use those improv skills and just kind of, be in the moment. And that's something that, to your point about doing this podcast and this show with different people from all walks of life, is it ultimately comes down to just conversational skills and interpersonal skills, and being able to talk and to carry a conversation and to hopefully be engaging or interesting, or at least look engaged and interested when you're talking to somebody as well. And I think that then helps in life skills in general, just to have conversations at a party with family that, if you're maybe quiet and reserved, and maybe it helps bring you out of your shell a little bit, or helps you talk to that guy or that girl at the bar, or that helps you in a job interview that you're going for, or even just, walking in the grocery store and being a little bit more personable, not being grouchy and looking people in the eye. I'm on my kid about that all the time. Eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. I want to see your eyes, because then I know you're listening and you're paying attention. So I just think that that it's good on you that you do something like this, because I think no matter what your background is, sport management, communications, otherwise, I think just the skill of talking to people and having conversations and communication in general, I think is something that we all need, no matter what job we're doing.